What is the role of the monarchy? I'm joined now by cultural expert, Professor Sihawukele Ngubane. Prof, thank you so much for joining us. So, outpouring of emotion. We've seen it in South Africa last year, in the United Kingdom this week, and that suggests that there's a very special role for the monarchy, though of course it's not a direct political one anymore. Do you think that speaks to a deeper need, perhaps a need for tradition, culture and history?
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me. I think there is a deeper need to have a monarchy, but as you know that there are nationalist monarchies and also constitutional monarchies. In the case of South Africa, we have adapted to constitutional monarchies. So their role is mainly ceremonial, upholding the tradition and the history of the indigenous people of South Africa. So their relevance is less formal because they don't have powers to become the head of states, but they share powers. The political power is also controlled by elected politicians, which is the government of the day. So they play a parallel role, which needs the identity of modernity, as so to speak.
So how do they? You know, Ollie Barrett was just saying that in a democracy in the UK, if the broad majority of people in the United Kingdom decided they didn't want a monarchy anymore, they could make sure that it all ended.
Continuity. We still need these monarchs to uphold our tradition, which identifies us as the Zulu people within the country of South Africa. So it's not only the Zulu kingdom, but there are so many kingdoms within South Africa which are on the coal face with the communities. They understand the needs of the people because they deal with the people and they deal with issues of land which is under their control. But at the same time, they are being governed by the Constitution, which follows the democratic procedures.
Yeah, you make an excellent point that there's a service role, and if done right, if you are a member of a royal family, you are there. It's duty, and not to mention, of course, certainly in the United Kingdom, but also here in South Africa, I would imagine there's a lot of tourism money that comes in. People who are fascinated with the royal houses here in South Africa, also in the United Kingdom. There's been quite a lot of talk since the death of the British Queen that, in a way, though, the monarchy is changing, that there's an end of an era. Interesting to note that in 1995, the British Queen and the Zulu King actually met in Durban, and they're seen of a particular era. We still don't know what King Charles will bring or change in the monarchy. But do you think that we are at the end of a very special era in royal history, both in Britain and here in South Africa to a certain extent?
I think so. To a certain extent, we are approaching a new era in our democracy because if you recall that the traditional monarchies, there were social injustices, there was no democracy. And as the time went by, there was a transformation where people or the masses had rights through the Bill of Rights, which did not exist in the past. So I think we are getting there and we are transforming towards that direction.
Do you think, though, and this is the reality, is that royalty is costly? They may perform a wonderful public service. They make people feel they've got a sense of tradition and history and continuity, as you've mentioned, but they are expensive to maintain. Do you think it's worth the cost?
Yes, as I alluded before, they are symbolic by nature. So the government cannot separate itself away from the symbolic nature of these monarchies. Already they treat them as assets. That's why they put more money into their running or operational business of the monarch. It is important that we know who we are, where we are coming from, because our next generation will not have this kind of history. Like we know in the 16th century, 17th, in Africa, the monarchs were there in Egypt, Greece, and all those things transformed and changed into the power sharing, whereby the monarch has no executive authority over its society or people. So although we are getting there, but we must not forget where we are coming from. That's why we need these monarchs as symbols of who we are and where we are coming from.
A very interesting topic. Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. Cultural expert Professor Sihawukele Ngubane.